Hello, this is Dr. Dami Kabiau, and I'm recording a basics video for charting in Excel. We're going to start with a simple column chart. The data I have here is returns for Google, and it is monthly returns from 2004 to 2021. So I take the return data and I summarize it based on year. So I am finding the average if the year is year, and so on and so forth. I've calculated the average return for every single year in my data. Now I'm going to take this and build a chart out of it. To build a chart, you select the data first in Excel, and you can click Insert and choose the kind of chart you want if you know what it is, or you can just click on Recommended Charts. Excel gives you ideas of what you can do with it in the Recommended Chart option, or you can go to All Charts and select the chart that you want. I do want a column chart, so I'm going to go with that one. I could have had a line chart, or down here is what we call the scatter plot or a waterfall chart, and so on and so forth. So let's go with the bar chart, and it comes up something like this. Now, once we have the chart up, we can do a few things with it. We can change it. But what I want to do today is take the data and split it up into categories. Sometimes you want to categorize the data. You want to have a major category and a minor category. So an example of what I want to do is showcased here under labels. My data for 2000s right here will be all of this, and then 2010s, and then 2020s. So I want to split them all up. In Excel, once you build the chart, you usually can extend the chart to include additional data, but you can't in this case. We can't extend it backwards. It just doesn't allow you to do that. You have to build the chart with all of the labels you want. So how about we delete this chart and try again? When you're setting it up, you put numbers in the first row. You don't drag it into all the rows. So let's give you an example of us copying this label into all the rows for the 2000s. If I select it and I go Insert Chart, Excel really can't tell. See? It gives you an opportunity to have it clustered by year, or so it either uses the major labels or the minor labels, and you can pick which one you want. But I want both labels on the same chart. So let me cancel this and undo the changes I've just done. Select the data again, and now go and do recommended charts, and something happens. It takes the data and carves it out by the major category that I defined. So I have the 2000s highlighted, 2010s highlighted, and the 2020s highlighted. And that's exactly what I want to do. And if I use a line chart as well, it will do the same thing for most of the chart types I have out there. It will split it up by category. So let's go back and pick the column chart and do OK. It shows up on the screen, and we can start to edit. There are 3 places you can edit data in Excel. You can use the plus sign. It gives you ability to change things. You can remove the grid lines, for example, or put it in if you want. You can add chart and axis title. We're going to delete the bottom axis title and keep the one on the side. Click on the axis title, click in the address bar and change the name. We'll say it's return. Okay. Now, I want to have a dynamic header for my data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this down, insert, shift the cells down, and then I'm going to merge these cells up here and call it include a dynamic header. So it's going to be equal to some text. It's going to be called Google return for, and I want to do years 2000 to 2004. So I'm going to concatenate or join it with the AND operation for AND, and I'm just going to do minimum value from this selection here. Now, of course, I could have just typed it in. I'm not typing it in to prove a point. And now I'm going to put some more text in here. Space 2 space and close the bracket, and max open bracket, same set of numbers, and close the bracket, and this should print Google return for 2004 to 2021. Press enter, and there we go. So now I want this header to be dynamic and change every time I change the values up here. So let's go and into the address bar, type equal to, and point it at this cell here, and that becomes the header. Now to prove the same point, I'll just make this 2001. And can you see? That changes, and my chart changes as well. So let's go make this 2004 again. And we're back where we were before. So now that we have the dynamic header done, let's do some work with editing the graph itself. If you go to click on the chart, the context chart menu comes up. I did say you could edit it by clicking on the plus sign. You could format chart styles, and you could also add some filters in. If you go to the chart style, up here, there are different things you can do. Add chart elements. You can change the layout really quickly. You can change the color coding if you have different types of charts. You can change styles, switch rows and column. It won't work with this one, so I'm not going to mess with it. If you switch the rows and you try to switch it back and it doesn't work, just use undo and you go back to where you were before. Select data allows you to add more data to this data series. And you can change chart type or move the chart onto its own sheet. So if you click on new sheet, it'll take this chart and move it onto a new sheet. The third way you can edit charts in Excel is just to double click. It brings up the right hand menu for format chart areas, just the context menu. You can format fill, style, look of the chart. You can add effects to the chart. This allows you to format the size of the chart. And then there's another one that shows up. If you click on any of the elements in the chart, you have the series option that allows you to format the series. So we'll start with the series option. It is a column chart, and we want it to be wide. So first of all, we're going to take out the bars in here. Do you know what? Just move it down to 0. Okay. See? It's removed all of the spacing between the chart, but they are blending into each other. So let's go back and see what you can do here. You can choose no fill, solid fill. You can have gradient fill, picture, patterns, and the rest. You can change colors for your fill. What I'm after is the border. I want to change the border and have it be solid lines. And I'm going to make it blue as well. So if I go back now, go back, click in here. I'm going to pick a blue that is a little bit, oh, this is white. I'm in the wrong part. So create borders, and I'm going to have the borders be a little bit bluer than what we have up here. If I go back to the chart, now I have all of the data demarcated, but with no space between. You can choose transparency, make it a little bit transparent. Go back to the chart. Oh, sorry, wrong thing. You have to select it and then adjust transparency for borders, not for the borders. You can do it for the borders if you want it. It'd be a little bit transparent. It'll be there, but not as blatant as it was, and so on and so forth. So I'll let you play with it, but that's how you build your chart in Excel. Now let's go look at doing more with bar charts. Now I want to plot a chart with two data series. I want the return data and the random number data. This is just generated from random numbers, clearly currency, but I'm calling it random number. I want both of these to plot on the same chart. So to do that, you select your data, go to the insert menu, click on recommended charts, and your options start coming up. Now here is the thing, if you see the line chart here, the return is very, very tiny compared to the random series. So let's go and start with this chart and do OK. And think about what we can do with it. So this is what the chart looks like. How about we change chart type and select a combo chart? Combo chart allows you to display both charts with different chart types. It also allows you, and this is the important part, to define a secondary axis so that one of your data is on the primary axis on the right hand side, and then on the left hand side another axis shows up with the other data scaled. That allows you to see both sets of data on the same chart. So we're going to take the line one, which belongs to random, and we're going to put that one on the secondary axis. So you can see the line now, we've got dollars on one side, and we have on the other side, we have return, and do OK. So now we can start adding extra things. We've got the axis showing up. We have the axis titles. We have the legend at the bottom that describes what the data is. I'm going to remove the grid lines and make it cleaner. And then let's edit all the axis titles. So on this side, we have random. I'm going to make it dynamic. It's equal to this. On the other side here, random. On the other side, we have return. So I'm going to go equals return. Oops, sorry. Equals return on that side, enter. And then at chart title, I'm just going to type, select it, and then go into the address bar and type Google. Google, oops, bracket 2004 to 2021. Close the bracket, done. Now, let's go edit the data series one at a time. Let's start with this description here. You can edit the position by going to labels in the axis option. And labels allows you to decide where to put it. Can you see multi-level category? The distance from the axis is 100. I want to put it below the axis, so we'll go with low. When you do that, it squashes your data at the top, so you can extend your axis title. Let's move the legend to the right and drag this out. This is probably a good time to take this chart and move it into its own sheet. There we go, looks good. We can change the color for each individual series by changing lines and marker. Marker allows us to put one of those little dots at the top. So if I do automatic, can you see? Each data point is represented by a dot. And we have our axis labels at the bottom. We don't need an axis title here because it's clear it's a date, so we can delete that. And we have the header and we have all the other information, and that is your chart. What about building pie charts? When you create pie charts in Excel, you have to build the table first. So for our table, I'm going to copy this column. I'm going to paste it here. We're going to paste values only. And I'm going to sort it. So let's go sort it. What I'm doing with the sort is I want to put all of the, I want to delete the blanks. So we'll sort it. And by doing that, the blanks go away. But okay, so this is not working. So let's copy this again, copy. We are going to paste it, values only, and I'm not going to sort it. I'm not going to sort it because it loses its order when I sort it. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to drag the other values up. And I'm going to use the labels from in here. Now this is the table we're going to use a pie chart with. The pie chart will scale the data, so you don't have to worry. So we'll say time. And we'll say data. Let's copy all of this and go into insert and recommended charts, and pie chart shows up. It scales it by size. Once the pie chart shows up, they are easier to edit. You just pick something you like. It has title, it has legends, and you can go to quick layouts and change it to something that you prefer. So let's go with this one here. Now, done. Can we take the text and change the color, make it white, bold, and larger than it is? We can change the color theme here. When you do it, it will normally override the changes. It might override the changes you made to color. So you can change the theme so that it's something else. And change the legend. You can change the individual ones here by changing all of the colors. You can choose to vary it by size. You can change the borders and all the others. So that is your pie chart. The last thing I want to look at is building histograms in Excel as part of the basics. So let's go to the histogram tab. I have the same set of data that I've used before, and again, it still returns data. To build a histogram, you can have Excel do it automatically for you and then edit the histogram that Excel builds. Or you can use a frequency formula, which is an array formula, to build your frequency table. So if I look in here, I can eyeball it and see what my lowest value is and my highest value is. Or I can just use the min and max formula. Equals min, open bracket. I want the smallest number in here. The smallest value is minus 18%, and then max. Select your data again. The largest value is about 47%. And what is my number? How many observations do I have? Select. Close. I have 197 observations. This gives me an idea of how I want to structure my my histogram. So now I have 18. The distance between here is something like 60. I have 197 observations. The range of my data is the max minus the mean. So the range is about 65 and I have roughly 200 observations. So I can split that up into about 10 different buckets. If I divide this by 10, I'll have 0.06. So each bucket will be about 0.06 in size. I could also split it up into 10, 8. Let's try 8. So let's say divide my range by 8. Each one is going to be roughly 0.08. So I'm going to round it up to 0.1. So let's round it up and create my bin. My minimum value in here is minus 0.018. So we're going to start with anything less than minus 0.1 will be counted into the first bucket. The second bucket is going to be this plus 0.1. See, the reason I'm doing this is it allows me to have whole number values. None of this, 0.19 something or other. So I'm going to drag this until I go past my maximum value. My maximum value is 0.47. That's not a lot. Okay, so that's too big. Let's try this again. Divide this by maybe 6 buckets. Okay, that gives me 0.1. My first bucket, I'm going to start with the minimum and add to that this value here. Okay, I suppose I can leave with this. 0.75, I suppose I can leave with it. But I'm going to round it. This value, and I'm going to round it up to 2 decimal places. And then now, this is just going to be okay, and okay, so that's better. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buckets. Now that I've got this done, I could create my histogram using an Excel function. So you could do data analysis and create your histogram, but I'm going to use the frequency buckets to do my count. Excel's frequency formula, if you want to use it, first you have to mark where you want to put it, the frequency. So I want all the frequencies to be next to the bin, and type frequency. It needs the data array. My data is in this cell, and it does, comma. It has a header, therefore my bin must have a header. My bin is in this cell here. I close it. Because I'm using an array formula in Excel, I hold down Shift, Control, and Enter. Shift, Control, and Enter. And there are 20 observations that fall below minus 0.8. I have 83 observations that's between minus 0.08 and 0.02. I have 73 between 0.02 and 17, and so on and so forth. So now that I've got this done, I can now create a bin. I can now create a histogram, by just insert a simple bar chart. Okay. And we can go and edit the histogram. and close up all the gap. I'd leave it at 30%. Actually, make it there. There we go. And then go to Fill, click on Borders, and add some border, solid line. And there we go. So that's my histogram. That is my histogram. I can also select this and change chart type and end up with a polygon. Let's use one of these. Okay. Now, if you create a line chart, Excel also allows you to smooth the line out. So now this should be more familiar. This is a skewed distribution, a nice skewed distribution. And then you can include labels, change the titles, everything else you want to do here. If you click on the chart, click on the plus side, you can remove the grid lines. You can add axis titles and do a few more things. If you go and explore further, if you click on any of the axes, you can go to axis options and change the information. So there we are with our histogram and our frequency table. Now, the final way I like building histogram is what I'm going to show you. Let's keep the frequency table, the polygon, the line chart, and delete this one and create the frequency using Excel's data analysis toolpack. Let's do, if you don't have data analysis toolpack, you can do File, More, Options, go to Add-ins, and down at the bottom of the add-in, you'll find Excel add-ins. Hit Go. This wizard comes up. You select the Analysis Toolpack, and it shows up under the Data tab. If you're using a MacBook, you go to Tools, and under there, you'll find Add-ins, and you can add this in as well. So, to use the Data Analysis Toolpack, click on Data Analysis, go to Histogram, do OK. Your input range is the range with the data, and this time you can't select the whole tab. You have the whole column. You have to select only the data. For bin range, if your data has headers, your bin should also have headers, and if your data does not have header, your bin should not have header. So once you do it, I have labels, good practice. So I click on, my data has labels. It's going to say where to output the data. I'm going to put it on the same sheet. You could put it in a new sheet, but I'm going to put it on the same one by clicking in here and selecting one cell. Excel will take as many cells as it needs to output the information. Go back. We can have cumulative percentage and the chart also at the same time. If you do a Pareto chart, it will sort the data before it creates the chart. I don't want to do that, so okay. Now here is my histogram. And because I asked for a cumulative frequency table, it also put a cumulative frequency chart in here. I'm sorry, I've edited my chart accidentally. So if you look in here, you have your chart, you have the actual data down here, and you have your Pareto chart, your cumulative frequency polygon or line chart up there. And we can edit each individual one as we did before. I'm going to change the gap. We're going to go here and add borders in. It just looks better. And then for the cumulative frequency chart, I'm going to change the color to red. I'm going to go to the markers. Up here, you can change the markers, the little dots on it. I'm going to change the markers as well to another kind if I want. Built in, let's go with stars instead. And no fill, nothing else. We can change the color of that to red. I don't want to a fill for the markers. So oh, sorry, solid line. Go back to the markers. No fill. We have the line. And we can change the outline of the line to red. So there you go with your Pareto chart. We can do more here, right? We can do more. If we go to the table itself, when Excel recreates your bin in another location, your histogram in another location, this here becomes labels. They're not numbers anymore. The bin numbers are up here, but the one Excel created is just a label. So we can edit that label and it will show up on the screen and say all values less than this value. And if you go in here, it shows up. And for the next one, we can say minus 0.08 to 0.2, and it will do, oops, undo. The minus is treating it as a formula. So I'm going to put a single quote in front of the minus, or you could put a space, and that will render it as text. So you literally can go and change all of the labels here. So if I select that on the chart, draw it out, you can see that this is less than, and this is something else. I don't really like that. So what I'm going to do is, since the actual numbers, so let's go back and delete everything I've just done. Since the actual numbers here are in the middle of my chart, instead of putting 0 in here, I'm going to put the midpoint of my data in here. So I'm going to change this to say equals this value divided by 2. That gives me the midpoint of that range. This one is this, is equal to this plus this divided by 2. Now what that does is it changes my labels so that my labels don't, like the 0.8 doesn't match the middle of the data. The 0.02 refers to the edge of the data, not the middle. So by putting the midpoint in, what you're doing is marking these points here, the middle of the distribution, which corresponds to the halfway mark between here and here. And then I'll just drag that out. So now I've got markers for the midpoint of the data, not the markers that represent the edge of the data. So that is our work. That's us done with the basics on how to create chart in Excel. See you in the next video.